And what's happening, everyone? It's Kyle from Magpie 24/7, and we're here, Paul, for the first. Well, it's the preview. It's not quite the first podcast of the new season, but the preview for the new season. It's we've held it off as long as we could. I think we've waited quite long enough, and I think it's now time to deliver the goods. But yeah, a couple of days towards the end of the season, a little bit of excitement creeping in, or false optimism. We don't quite know yet, but we're into a new season.
Typical Geordies we've got now.
Yeah, it's a bit because you've had whispers of excitement a little bit. I spoke to the True Faith lads on the podcast I did with them. They seem passively optimistic for the season, and it's kind of rubbed off on us a little bit. I mean, going into it, I was kind of like going into podcasts and stuff, and I've been a bit negative, and I felt a bit like it's the same shit every season, isn't it? But I think the recent signing of Joe Willock in particular is really like, right, let's go. Season's coming in, get into the motion and get into Sunday. Because I was thinking I'm not going to go on a away day for a while, but I'm already trying to get tickets to Villa. You know what I mean? So yeah, it kind of catches you in a bit of a whirlwind. But yeah, I'm not like buzzing for the start of the season, Paul. I'm kind of just get into it. But it's been a while since we've done a podcast. It's been a couple of weeks, so hope you're doing all right, mate. Had a good talk before the podcast kicked off and stuff. But I'm looking forward to Sunday, mate. Just being able to catch up with you and things that are getting back into the motion of being a fan again. Because I think during COVID and stuff, we missed a lot of things. Like obviously going to spoons before the match or whatever it may be. You know, like whatever you do, whatever your pre-match ritual is. I'm sure you missed that, or all you missed that during lockdown and stuff. So it'd be nice to get back to that, if anything.
It is, mate, and it's your avenue to be able to unload on fellow Newcastle supporters. Could it be the transfer, the frustrations about the transfer window? Could it be that we're going into another season with Lee Charnley and Mike Ashley in charge of things? Steve Bruce still as the manager with his never-ending magic contract that's got no end date on it. It's all of those sorts of things. But yeah, looking forward to. I think what we were saying, and certainly around the pre-season games, because obviously I've been to quite a few pre-season games, it's more about the social side of it and going to St James's Park and the day and everything else like that, as opposed to I can't wait to see Bruce Ball, because I think you, me, everybody else had pretty much as we could stomach of that in his first season, let alone last season with how it panned out and everything. So yeah, you're not looking forward to great for free-flowing, champagne, sexy football, whatever you want to call it, but definitely looking to getting back to St James's Park. Good that Joe Willock isn't going to be playing, isn't going to be involved, even in a small part on the bench. Gutted about that, but yeah, I think the last week or so when the season tickets started to arrive, and I'd been to one or two pre-season games, it does, as it does every single year, it bites you. And it's the hope that kills you, mate. I've literally since I've started going, since probably 94, something like that. Every season, I'm adamant, we can do something, we can win something. What if, maybe? And even this season, you're sitting there thinking, I know we fought relegation again last season, and we rode the seat of our pants far too many times. But you're looking at the team and you think we've got Alison Maximin, we've got Miggy, we've got Wilson, we've got Joe Willock. We've got lots of good players. The problem, of course, comes with squad depth and everything. But yeah, the first games of the season when you've got a full squad to pick from and a strong bench, and you've not been kicked out of the cups yet, although we have got the Jeff Hendrick derby to look forward to. It does, it just recharges you and you're ready to go. I'm just good to admit we haven't got the new ownership. I was hoping and praying, mate, that we'd have new owners and there'd be a party carnival atmosphere at the ground. But at least it looks like it's going to be a sellout, so that's a positive. And yeah, I'm sure we'll touch on the takeover. Later on in the video.
Yeah, 100%, mate. That's something I've got on my notes here. But the first thing I was going to talk about is pre-season, because like it's been a weird one. Obviously, you've been to a couple of games. I went to the home one. We've managed to avoid each other in the midst of all this. But like, yeah, I mean, the pre-season didn't start great. I mean, we lost 1-0 at York. I was on Tynemouth Beach, seeing the goal go in, just managing to catch signal, and I'm like, fuck's sake. I'm sick of me.
You like the same old, don't you?
I'm thinking, oh god, we can't even be fucking York. Start of the season, oh god. But nothing went right that day because Rob commentates for York, and like Rob, a friend that we know from previous Oasis and stuff. He commentates for York, and he had a chance to commentate on this game, but they pulled it from underneath him last second, so he didn't get the chance. So that was a bit shit for him, and we were good for him as well. And then Newcastle play like they do. There's a big 4 on the flipping top. We get flipping beat, so it's not good.
No.
So it's a meltdown at the start of pre-season, but obviously you don't. I remember the championship season when we got beat 6-1 off Leyton Orient. You can't really gauge pre-season very much.
You get Steve Bruce with his. It's all about minutes. It's all about minutes. That's how it comes out with. He's got his Pardew excuse book already out there, already polishing it up, and you're sitting there thinking, "Oh my word, I already hate this before the season's even started." It was a disaster, mate. That game from start to finish. We saw obviously the stream and stuff of it. You could watch it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I wanted to gouge my eyes out. I had it hooked up to the TV.
Yeah.
And I was honestly, mate, already, it was only pre-season. I was already contemplating getting hold of the TV and slinging it out in the back garden. It was absolutely garbage, mate.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how, like, let me know how many tallies is Paul going through this season. Thankfully, we're at more games than not, so it should only be 2 or 3, right? But,
maybe a few seats getting ripped up.
But we started shitty against York. Obviously, it wasn't good. Even Maxi played, so I was surprised we didn't make any impact in that one. And I remember when Steve Bruce's notes came out after the press conference and stuff, the usual spiel. But I remember after the Euros, and he started, and I remember hearing him. I'm like, I forgot how annoying you were, and it started to come in a little bit again now. So it's like. That's
the thing, mate. After a fantastic Euros and at the high of everything, and England doing fantastically well, and the Graham Jones effect and everything else like that, to then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, back down to earth with a bang, back down to Newcastle and this, that, and the other. And at that point, I was just sitting there with the Graham Jones picture, rocking backwards and forwards in the corner, just talking for some sort of divine miracle.
Yeah, but to be fair, the next 2, mate, is probably more for you, because I didn't see either of these games because they weren't streamed, but you went to them. You went to both Doncaster and Rotherham, and looking back, I wish I'd have went, but I mean, Doncaster was a 3-2 win. It wasn't comfortable. You said the goalkeeper made a couple of mistakes, but it was the first away day since West Brom away. I think.
And mate, let me just say, for a pre-season game to have several thousand Newcastle supporters, right? I think there was only 6,000 or 7,000 in the stadium, and Newcastle fans were dominating the attendance. They were dominating the noise and the scene outside. The away end was absolutely heaving. The home end, despite being delayed, the kickoff was so space, like occupied. There was literally, it seemed like no home support, and the away end made from minute 1, and even before the players come out when they were training, even players taking shots at goal, warm-ups, was getting huge ovations and getting songs. The players come out, and the fans from minute 1 to minute 90 were absolutely wild, singing their hearts out, songs left, right, and centre. If such and such scores were on the pitch, you had all the old classics. We had Shola Obi songs, mate. We were literally, Shola Obi was having his name sung in the away end. It was absolutely a pleasure to be. It's one of the best away ends that I've been in. We were at the West Brom game. That was fantastic. The Doncaster game was too.
Yeah.
Newcastle played some decent stuff. We knocked it about. We looked like we were all over them at first. And then I don't want to single out a lad who was being thrown into the deep end. But Dan Langley, he looked really out of his depth. And I just thought every time they were going to attack and get a shot on target, there was a potential for them to score, unfortunately. But our attacking players make no doubt about it. We're different gravy. and we were deserved winners. We could have, and we should have won by much, much more. But yeah, I mean, at that point, I was just more worrying over the goalkeeping situation and hoping that things would clear up and things would get better. I was gutted about the news about Martin Dubravka. Obviously, after doing his international service, coming back to Newcastle injured, is gutting. Going to miss the start of the season again. But yeah, it was cracking. And like I said, every single person in that away end, mate, there wasn't one person who didn't sing and who didn't enjoy it. It was a pleasure from start to finish, the entire experience there. But to show the opposite side of the coin, Rotherham away. I pulled up, I parked up near Millmore, their old stadium, which is all. It's got fencing around. It's still stood. It's still standing there. They're redeveloping it at the moment, something separate to the football club. But then headed over to the New York Stadium. A stadium I've actually managed that before. I've done some youth coaching, some youth management, and through my school work, and managed there. Fantastic facility. So I knew what.
Did you win?
Sorry.
Did you win your game?
Oh, I won the tournament. All right, you know what?
There you go.
I don't play not to win. That message was made totally clear.
Manager, there we go. Pointing on it. There we go. Spotty
I've been saying I could do a better job than Steve Bruce, and everybody knows it.
You won at Rotherham. All I'm saying.
So certainly that's a feather in my cap. But the game, I mean, it didn't start off great for me. I was the tickets I was shepherded through by some rather keen stewards who were. A little bit probably green because it was their first match with fans in since the COVID thing was lifted. And myself and one or two others were shifted into an area where some home fans were going to be sat. So in the end, we were moved to quite an unusual position up whereby the commentators and everybody sits. So that was different. That was a bit of a unusual one, but it was actually a cracking view. Unfortunately, mate, the game was shit. It was absolutely shit. We were fucking awful. Dan Barlaser absolutely took the piss. He really did. The pitch was sodden. The ball was getting held up and we were just hacking stuff away. The balls were getting fired in from the left and right. It was a bit of a mess. It was a bit of a makeshift team. We didn't have enough anybody in the attacking areas. And despite the fact, I mean, the positive, I suppose you could say from that game, mate, was we went behind and still managed to get a draw when the Irish Jesus scored. And I must admit, I'll give credit where credit is due. Jeff Hendrick, that was a fantastic goal. But just in case Steve Bruce is watching, he's not a striker. Don't ever play that man there again. And I was more impressed with the lad who was playing beside him from the under-18s. Who I've singled out on a couple of occasions over pre-season. Young White from the under-18s. I thought he looked really good on the ball. He was confident. He put himself about. He's got a left peg. I'd like that. He was energetic. He was enthusiastic, mate. And I really, really like the look of him. I know Elliot Anderson's coming up through the system, and I like the look of Elliot Anderson, but I also like the look of this lad White. I think he could be a player for Newcastle in the future, but we were lucky, mate, make no doubt about it. And you're coming out of the game, and even the Rotherham supporters are sort of like feeling a little bit sorry for us and having to watch that shite and stuff like that. Now the away end, it wasn't as noisy as what it was, but there was again plenty of songs, plenty of noise, plenty of moans and groans, little bits of frustration taken out against obviously Ashley. And Steve Bruce and stuff. And when you're getting compared to Steve McLaren at this stage,
I forgot to mention that. You put your video up, right, of Steve McLaren, and I think a certain someone seen that one, mind. I don't think he was very happy. Be mentioned before on the podcast, Mr. Edwards. Ooh, you got a bit of a bite. Just
a bit. Even though we're blocked by certain people, but never mind. Certain journalists have got a little bit,
bit too much. But I mean, it didn't look good. The start of pre-season, played 3 lower division sides, and picked up 1 win out of 3 and conceded. A bit concerning, but obviously we played another lower division side, Burton Albion, we got told to enjoy Burton away all those years ago, Paul.
We always do.
The supporters. And we did enjoy Burton away. I don't think the set of supporters that mentioned this in 2016 enjoyed Burton away so much so they got relegated at home by Burton to the third division, to which they are still there. So yeah, nice last words from Sunderland, which have lasted quite a long time to my hilarity. But yeah, I mean, we'll beat Burton 2-0. It looked a fairly comfortable performance from what I've seen of the highlights and stuff. But yeah, I mean,
much better, mate. Much better, mate. The thing is, though, poor Burton. How shit are you when Joe Linton scores against you? Although obviously we did have a little bit of a scare injury-wise during that game, but yeah, very, very comfortable. I thought Newcastle again could have and should have run out much better and bigger winners on the day, to be honest. But again, I think the frustrations were still at this point. Newcastle refusing to do business, refusing to put the money down to complete deals. And I think, again, the watchword from the fans, again, another fantastic away following. It was just, again, frustration at our club, refusing to comment, refusing to communicate, refusing to make bids. At this stage, the only Premier League club who hadn't made a permanent transfer, Newcastle United, and as Newcastle fans, you're banging your head off a brick wall, mate.
Yeah, up until today, that was the fact.
Yeah,
yeah, flipping mental. But we'll touch on Joe Willock in a bit. But yeah, we ended pre-season against two Premier League teams. We played Burnley behind closed doors. Don't know anything about. I just know Gio Rodriguez scored the winner. They didn't show anything else.
Yeah.
But I'll probably take the floor on this one, mate. Since I went to the Norwich friendly, I thought the first half were absolutely flipping dismal. Well, midfield looked absolutely horrendous. Norwich had the better chances in the first half. I like the look of that Billy Gilmore in midfield. He looks comfortable on the ball, that lad. But weirdly,
is that lad from they got on loan?
Yeah, from Chelsea.
Yeah.
He looks a good player. He played for Scotland in the Euros, doing really well for it against England. But yeah, he looks a good player. But looking like in the second half, we brought on Maxi, we brought on Shelvey, and we brought on a couple of players that would be featured in the first team. And if anyone who's listened to the podcast from day dot will know, we aren't John Joe Shelvey's biggest fans. We've slated him more than we've praised him. But Shelvey came on at the weekend and he just changed the game. He just bang, no bother. He's spraying passes everywhere. They weren't pressuring him, but he came on and he added a calmness almost to the midfield, and it was like, is this 2015? Are you all right? Like, it was a bit bizarre, but like John Joe came on, he settled the midfield, he gave a good balance between the defence and in the midfield, because in the first half, Feddy was giving the ball away a lot, Murphy was giving the ball away a lot. Sean kept giving the ball away in midfield. Hayden kept there was about 4 or 5 players giving the ball away too easily. And Shelvey just gave that little bit of balance, got the ball that way, got the ball to Maxi, and Maxi did the rest. Even Fraser came on and did well to some extent. So, and we managed to score free. I was going on
he's
Gale.
in a different position, isn't he, mate? Fraser. They've tried him out in a few different positions over the course of pre-season, and I think they're really trying hard, A, to get him fit, B, to keep him fit, but then also to find a position and a role for him in the team, because when everybody's fit, it's going to be difficult to justify dropping a Miggy or an ASM or somebody like that. But I mean, did you see the goal that he scored against Doncaster? Quality, Fraser.
Oh, yeah, did I? It was
a quality strike, man. Absolute quality strike. Right. I know it's only against Doncaster. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not like pretending he's going to be this, that, and the other, but it's still a quality strike. You still need to have some technique to be able to do what he did. And I think Bruce is trying to maybe try him in a more central position to see whether he could get against something else out of the lad to give him more minutes on the pitch. But yeah, I think it's a big shout. But yeah, I totally agree. John Joe came on against Norwich, and we looked like a side absolutely transformed, just with a different range of passing, mate, that nobody else has got at the club. Nobody else, maybe with the exception of maybe Fabian Schär. I'd argue that he's probably got that range of passing in him, but he's not in a position in the field.
But when he's not on the field, it's very difficult. I think that's why. I'll speak about this more soon, but I think it's why we're after another ball playing centre back by the sounds of the reports. So I think that's mainly why. But yeah, second half, Maxi came on and he just completely changed the game. He didn't score or anything like that, but he was very, very threatening, and I think Norwich realised pretty flipping quickly what they had on the hands. And I think with Maxi, we obviously have that special ingredient that other teams don't have. Like, to summarise pre-season, like the best and worst performers during pre-season, like, was there any that opened your eyes? Did Maxi play well? Because to me, in the first couple of games, it looked like he was a bit injured. He didn't look right against York. I'm not sure about I think he had an illness for.
He did, mate. Yes, he went down with a mysterious illness. Now, at this point, I was shitting bricks, because if you cast your mind back to when he was at Nice before we signed him, he all of a sudden started getting these mysterious illnesses, and he was unavailable. And that was because he was trying to push the move through to Newcastle. So, of course, putting one and one together, and you're looking at the situation, you're scratching your head, and where's he at? And we need him, and he's one of our talisman. In the team. I was worried, and when he was playing, he was looking so far off the pace. But as we've seen with the Caldalo situation and stuff like that, his illness, can take it out of you. But yeah, the second half against Norwich, I thought he was much more improved, much more what we are, used to. And again, he's not going to score every single game of this, that, and the other, but what he does, mate, is he'll occupy 2 or 3 players and create space, or he'll win a free kick, or he'll move you forward, or he'll set an attack off, or he'll have the energy to be able to keep a ball in that has no right to be kept in, and that gets an attack going or whatever. Yeah. Personally, for me, sort of players who've impressed me over pre-season, Jacob Murphy. He came back to training before pre-season training even started. Yeah. And I know he wasn't fantastic against Norwich. I didn't think he had a great game, but first half, nor did many people. But I think this pre-season, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's earned himself a new deal, potentially up to 6 years, if you believe what's been reported and stuff like that. This for a lad who most people would have quite happily paid for a taxi fare to get rid of him.
We did. We wore him off, mate, before he was out the door.
People, including ourselves, were saying, look, I hope Sheffield Wednesday take up an option on him, this, that, and the other. But you can tell, mate, it doesn't matter whether it's a pre-season knockabout or whether it's a competitive game, he cares. He scored fantastically well in pre-season also. So he's performed fantastically well over pre-season. And he certainly stood out. But like I touched on before, some of the youngsters coming in, I know I said the goalkeeper, Dan Langley, he hasn't really impressed me, to be honest, in the same way that like a Jack Hannick didn't impress me, or some others didn't impress me. Even Fraser Foster, when he was breaking through, didn't particularly impress me at the time. Dan Langley didn't impress me, but certainly White.
Change a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I did with Woodman, if you remember, because I remember watching him against Luton in the FA Cup, and he looked shaky, he looked timid, he was terrible distribution. I watched him against Norwich, and he looks a completely different goalkeeper. Like, I know we'll speak about West Ham later on the podcast, but it's literally a case of like he's grown so much as a goalkeeper. Like, he should be. Newcastle need to keep him. Even if
it's a difficult one, mate. It's a difficult one because rumours today, strong rumours that Arsenal, they've been knocked back, I think, a £27 million bid from the lad from Sheffield United, the goalkeeper, I think Ramsdale. They want between 30 and 34 million Sheffield United for their goalkeeper. So they are now shifting their attentions through to Freddie Woodman. Now, Martin Dubravka is going to be back for the Manchester United game. He'll be back fit for the international break just before that game. Carl Darlow, if needed, would be available. But obviously, he's recovering from the effects of COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Still getting back up. There is still a strong chance that Freddie Woodman may not be a Newcastle goalkeeper. But I was listening to Mick Lowe's speaking about Freddie Woodman. And, obviously I have a lot of time for what Mick Lowe says and his thoughts and what he's seen in the game. And he's like, look, he says, if you let Woodman get in, Woodman will be a better keeper than Martin Dubravka. Now, that is quite a big statement, because obviously myself, yourself, many others rating Martin Dubravka so high. But that's somebody with a lot of knowledge of the game saying that they believe, and certainly from what he spoke to coaches about, etc., that he could become better than Martin Dubravka. But the call will come. If you put Woodman in and keep him in, is Dubravka going to be happy playing second fiddle? I can't imagine that he would, because I think he's capable of certainly being a goalkeeper for a Champions League side. I rate him that highly. But there is a big call to be made, mate. At the end of the day, I think Carl Darlow could probably go to another club, maybe a top-end Championship, lower-end Premier League club, and be a first choice. I think Gillespie is a backup keeper. He's a third-choice keeper all day long. It's who do you put in? Who do you say, right, we're going in that direction now and we're going to back? If Arsenal come with £24 million for Freddie Woodman or £20 million for Freddie Woodman,
you snap the hand off.
Yeah.
You do.
And what I mean, what the need, Arsenal need to improve their English quota. So they need an English goalkeeper, and that's why Woodman gets that. So that automatically gets an extra little bit on top. So you could find yourself in a situation, mate, where you're getting most of the Willock money back through Freddie Woodman. But do you say no? Freddie Woodman, what is he, 24? I think he's 24. Let's just say 24.
Young for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, you could be talking 12, 13 years, your first choice keeper. That's what you could be saying. Now, if you've got Martin Dubravka, who is older, do you sit there and think, well, do you actually sell Dubravka? Do you keep him until the winter trading and then move Dubravka on? It is huge. I think you've got two fantastic goalkeepers there. Then you've got, just underneath that, you've got Carl Darlow, who's a fantastic keeper in his own right. I personally think he's not a number one for Newcastle. That's just my personal opinions and feelings on it. So I think at least one of the goalkeepers has to go. There's no way that we can justify in a squad of 25 having 4 goalkeepers when you've only got 5 centre-backs and you're playing 3 at the back week in and week out, for example. So to me, we need to shift a goalkeeper on before this summer trading is over. But I would not like to be the man who makes the decision, because it is an absolutely humongous. I love Dubravka, but from what I've seen of Freddie Woodman, I'm also
impressed.
Definitely impressed. Much more than I'm impressed for the Carl Darlow. Although I will just say, and I've just been singing the song before we came on, actually, because the song came on the TV. He's got a mint chant, Carl Darlow, hasn't he? Absolutely mint chant.
He does, but it is a tough one. But not many teams in the league have that kind of headache where the goalkeepers are concerned.
We've always had it.
In terms of 3 goalkeepers, I don't think there's another team in the league have better strength and depth over 3 goalkeepers than we do, which is strange. We're not usually the best in class with goalkeeper. We're not quite PSG, who have 25 goalkeepers, but we have 3, and we have 3 good ones.
We've always done it. You look back historically, right? And when there was Steve Harper versus Shea Given, either one of them could have been a first choice goalkeeper easily. You've had Shaka Hislop when you've had versus Pav. No, 1 sec. No, Matt Sells. Nah, he was shite. He's going to be the goalkeeper who's going to give Messi his debut, isn't he? Oh shit! But no, we have. We've always had great, great goalkeepers, and even now, Martin Dubravka and Carl Darlow are a fantastic 2 fight now. But yeah, season after season, we've always had quality, between the sticks, and that's forced, as I touched on before. And we had Fraser Foster just sitting there, and we've been able to let quality goalkeepers go because we've always had quality goalkeepers. But yeah, again, it's a difficult one. it's a difficult one, and no matter which way that you cut it, you are going to upset some of the fan base. There's going to be some people who are really attached to Martin Dubravka, some people who think Woodman should be in there, and there'll be even probably some Carl Darlow supporters saying, well, what about this lad? You know what I mean? So I don't envy, but it is a decision that needs to be made. But I would say Freddie Woodman has got the perfect opportunity to stay with him. Prove yourself. So, go out, enjoy yourself, make the saves, command the box.
Yeah.
No good distribution, mate. And it could be that Freddie Woodman, despite the fact that a loan was sorted out for him to Bournemouth, it could end up being our first choice. And if not, he could end up going to Arsenal and pushing their keeper for the first team duties down at the Emirates. And Mike Ashley gets his 24, 25 million back. Zero net spend.
We're talking about a big decision, right? The big decision between the goalkeepers, for Freddie Woodman, Carl Darlow, Martin Dubravka. The thing is, I wouldn't trust Steve Bruce to run as a Bath. So it's like, which way do you go? Like, we're trusting.
Mrs. Charnley doesn't trust Lee Charnley to cook the toast on a morning. He's that useless. I told you, honestly, he wears slip-on fucking shoes because he can't tie his own bastard laces. So, fuck me.
Aye, but these are the people that are the football club we love, mate, and it's an actual sin. It's a sin to life. But yeah, in terms of like best and worst players for our pre-season and stuff, I was impressed with the way Maxie played against Norwich. Norwich is probably the only one I've seen all the way through, so that's probably where I'll gauge mine from. I was impressed with Woodman. I liked the way he looked. Gale had a good game against Norwich. Obviously, Dwight Gale's a strange.
Wow, what a finish, mate! What a finish!
There were two good goals. I mean, there were two good finishes. But you mentioned Shola Miobi before. If we don't sign another centre forward, we might be calling him out of retirement. Loan manager to centre forward.
I will say, mate. With Dwight Gale, this has been his first pre-season he's been able to do since 2018, and I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking to myself, he's certainly against Norwich. He looks like he's benefiting from having a pre-season, mate. He really does. Yeah. And the confidence, it was a beautiful. I don't care. At the end of the day, you've still got a very good goalkeeper to beat there. And that finish and that curve and that bend was an absolute joy to behold. And if you can get Dwight Gale chipping in with a few goals, because he hasn't done that over recent seasons, I'm afraid to say, it can be a massive asset to Newcastle off the bench, covering for Wilson when he's injured. But you're quite right. We need more. And I'm not buying the shit that's being shoveled out about, Maxi can be a striker and all this false nine shit. It's basically, you can make an argument for anybody under that. Well, it's a false nine. It's not a real. No. If you want a striker, play a striker. It's square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes, and none of this bullshit about false this and false that and everything. Maxi's not a striker. Maxi's not one. Miggy's not one. And certainly, and I want to make this 100% clear because I was there, Jeff Hendrick, Steve Bruce, is not a striker. So get that dirty thought out your mind. The overman.
If Jeff Hendrick is a centre forward, then I am an astronaut. You know what I mean? He's just flipping not. He's not even a footballer, let alone a centre forward. Let's be honest, mate. To be
fair though, it was a really good goal. It was a great header. But as soon as he scored.
He's probably heard you talking on this podcast. He probably thought, I'll hit him with a flipping header. It's with the top corner. You know what I mean? But in terms of like the window, might as well preview that as well. We'll preview the games in pre-season. Might as well look at transfers in is pretty shambolic. I mean, we've brought in Jeff. I've now said Jeff Hendrick. Flipping hell, Kyle.
No, we're not cloned the bastard.
Not again. Please, again. But we've just brought in Joe Willock today. Our first signing of the summer, which is really disappointing that it's only the first signing. But I did a video on this like yesterday, and it came out the day for the YouTube channel and stuff. And I gave my thoughts. I was quite happy with the signing. Very versatile, very important signing for me. Even Alex Hurst yesterday was saying it could potentially be the biggest signing or the most important signing under Mike Ashley, which was a big claim, by the way, for me. But yeah, in terms of Willock, I was really happy with the signing, but didn't quite get your thoughts, Paul. Like, what are you thinking?
I'm absolutely over the moon with the capture of Joe Willock, but it's so frustrating that the club only seems to be able to work on one deal and doing one thing at the time.
Especially with Sean.
This was the most common sense decision, the most easiest decision that you should ever have been able to make. You look back at the goals that he scored, he was outstripping everybody else. You look at all the other midfielders. He's our best midfielder since Johan Kabai. You look at his athleticism, how he arrives late in the box. He offers something different. You've got Hayden, who's defensively sound but hasn't got the range of passing. You've got John Joe, who has got the range of passing. You've got fantastic, tricky, pacey, wide attacking players further up, but you haven't up till this point had somebody arriving late in the box. Somebody he's just like a Rolls Royce of a player. He runs so fantastically well, and he's so physically well built, so impressive. When you're looking at John Joe with his hands on his legs, out of breath, absolutely exhausted, and then you see literally like Joe Willock doing all the running, and he looks like he could run forever. Let me just say, mate, the deal that we got, we absolutely and utterly mugged Arsenal off, and I just think with Arsenal, mate, they're a club who likes the fancy foreign sexy player coming in, and perhaps not so much for one of their own. But I'm just over the moon. I'm just delighted that the club has done the deal. Are we any stronger than last season? No. But what I would say is, look, Joe Willock's in. We've got Graham Jones back off the Euros, and we've not managed to lose him. Other clubs have come calling for Graham Jones, so we could have lost Graham Jones. We've managed to find some money from somewhere under the sofa or anywhere else that Mike Ashley's been hiding the cash for all these years. We've managed to find the money. We've paid for it in a lump sum as well. There's no financing of it or anything else like that, or any shenanigans. So I'm just delighted. I'm delighted, mate. We have signed a quality footballer, but it can't stop there. I know we've got 26 players in the squad. We touched upon the fact that some goalkeepers probably need to go out, some others need to go out. We've cut away all the deadwood. We've saved over £200,000 per week in wages with the likes of your Carrolls, etc., all of the wage bill now. And it's a case of having a squad. What we need is no deadwood, because we can't afford to carry deadwood.
No.
Having quality options all the way through that 25, mate, so that we can have a better season. Because I am pissed off with relegation scrap after relegation scrap. Joe Willock touched on it today. We shouldn't be doing that. That isn't Newcastle. That shouldn't be Newcastle at all. But yeah, totally and utterly delighted. I was buzzing. I've watched the videos and the media stuff that he's done, and he speaks really, really well. I think it was a difficult decision him leaving Arsenal. He's been there since unofficially since he's been 4. But he's talked very glowingly about the club and how it's a family feel to it. And so I'm just delighted. I'm trying not to look at the politics and the Premier League stuff and the takeover, pissing against the wind and all of that. And I'm just looking at it as you've signed this player. What do you think? And yeah, I'm just relieved, because I know if there was a way to fuck it up, Newcastle would have found a way to fuck it up. And I know he's not available for this weekend's game, so that's a little bit of a fuck up. But, mate, he's a quality player. He's going to score your goals. He's going to get into, you'd argue, probably double figures over the course of the season. And I think his potential international quality. And I just now hope and pray that the takeover or a takeover does happen. We can progress as a club. You want to keep your ASM's happy, which this does, because he's been quite vocal, hasn't he, about we should be signing the Joe Willocks of the world, and we've got another quality player in. It's all about trying to build it up bit
100%.
by bit and not finding excuses to not sign these players. It's to me, I said it to you after last season, mate. Common sense, sign him up. He was scoring your De Bruyne's, every other attacking midfielder in the league. He was doing the business. So
100%.
Find the cash and do the deal. We're a Premier League team, mate. We're a Premier League team, a Premier League club. We've got a fantastic support. We should be making. These are the type of deals that we should be doing every single summer. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody at all.
No.
That the club of Newcastle stature are doing this. But certainly, mate, I've looked around and I was starting to get worried. You see Aston Villa splashing cash, all the others splashing cash, even like Watford's, even Fulham's with money to burn. And then you're sitting there thinking, all I'm hearing from Newcastle, mate, is like paper towels and excuses.
Yeah, pretty much.
Today, mate, no excuses. They got the job done. But I will just say, for all those people kissing Lee Charnley's ass, are you kissing the cleaner's ass when the cleaner hoovers the carpet up? No, you're not. So all he's done is he's done his job, mate. You know what I mean? So there's no ass kissing from Lee Charnley here. I know Mark, we were watching this video. Mark likes to ass kiss Lee Charnley. I refuse to kiss. He's just done his job, mate. For one day, he's done his job, and that's it. Let's see what he does. Let's see what he does tomorrow. So yeah, well done on hoovering the carpet. Well done on washing the pots. You know?
I've completely forgot where I was, Paul. Thanks. But yeah, Willock offers he offers versatility. He offers something in midfield, because obviously our midfield before he signed was as dull as dishwater. Like Hendrick, Shelby, you know, it just doesn't get.
Even the long shots, mate. I mean, we've touched on them a few times.
Just you know what I mean.
It's just like they've been bruised, haven't they? You know, they've been bruised at the end of the day.
But one thing I will say is I think Arsenal might be looking for his receipt, because they're getting beat 2-0 at Brentford, mate. You know, they might just be looking for that receipt. But they can piss off.
Brentford top of the Premier League.
Oh, yeah. Brentford top of the Premier League. Stop the league now. As long as we're not in the bottom three, right? But speaking of praising Charnley, Bruce was quick to thank Lee Charnley for getting this done. Which really annoyed me a bit. I think coming out and thanking Lee Charnley just kind of sums up the kind of he's definitely the stooge. And like, obviously I've mentioned Alex a couple of times in the podcast, and I'll mention him again. Like, I was speaking to him yesterday, and he was like, you know, we're talking about Charnley a little bit and what he's actually like and stuff like that. And
okay.
For me, it's just mental that Lee Charnley will get thanked, because for me, he might be a canny bloke, but in his job description, he gets paid nearly 600 grand a year to do effectively nothing.
And he's a pay rise, mate. The club earning all that money on furlough payments. Yeah, they claimed £1.2 million on furlough payments, and then they decided at the same time to give Lee Charnley a pay rise to increase his wage threefold. It's unbelievable. The man, and people say he's all right. He's not one of us. Like, he's not one of us.
Come on.
No, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. He's one of us. That he's one of the lads. Yeah, he promises so much. I mean, I even think that Mama Charnley probably hates this lad. You know what I mean? He's that fucking useless. Mrs. Charnley just wants him out the house. He probably has a clip-on tie, slip-on shoes. The staff don't even trust him to order the photocopy of paper, never mind anything else. And he oversees farce after farce. He doesn't speak to the fans. He might promise one thing to the authorities and then fails to do anything. Mate, he was arrested and unarrested, and he's had tax shenanigans. You name it, there's been controversy, and every single time, mate, it's under his stewardship. And you've got to think of it, mate. He is the puppet of a certain Mike Ashley. He's the right hand of a certain Mike Ashley. So I can't give him credit. I cannot give him credit. And like, even today, on a fantastic day for the football club, we signed a fantastic footballer in Joe Willock. But like I touched on before, like you don't say that the person serving in the canteen's doing a fantastic job, yeah, and they do it every day of the week. Lee Charney's done this once, yeah, and he might have done a good deal a while ago for Martin Dubravka to bring him in, on a relatively cheap deal and this, that, and the other. But more often than not, mate, he's
Right.
he's just part of the problem, isn't he? He's part of the problem. He's not part of the solution that Newcastle United needs, mate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he's just flipping useless. I just hope this takeover can eventually go through so we can get rid of these flipping idiots. Like, I know we're having to wait a while, and it's not even worth talking about the takeover. I'm just completely dead to it until opportunity comes up.
On the road.
But we have been linked with other players like Paul. Weirdly enough, we've been linked with Santiago Munez. And when I started this podcast with you, I wasn't expecting to be mentioning goal in real life. Like, everybody loves goal. Anybody listening loves goal. Of course you do.
Yeah.
But for Newcastle to sign Santiago Munez in real life, I wasn't expecting it. So I might just watch goal again just for the crack. But I don't know much about the kid. He scored 3 goals in like 20 games in Mexico. He's only 18, 19. But
he did well at the under 17s World Cup, mate, a couple of years back. And during the run and during the subsequent time at his club, Newcastle's Twitter account actually, did the eyes emoji over some of the reports about him scoring and this, that, and the other. So I retweeted that onto ours today. Newcastle, previously retweeting this lad and stuff. And again, part of me thinks, is it the merchandise thing? Is it the story? You know what I mean? If it is true, we've got a loan with an option to buy. You hope and pray beyond anything that this deal comes off, and the kid is fantastic. It's another Jose Perez sort of situation when we signed him from Tenerife from nowhere.
Having Harris, didn't we?
Yeah. So I looked at it first of all, and I thought somebody's taking the piss. So then I did a search on ESPN, and then I did a search. Then I was like, well, I've heard this player. Where have I heard him from? Yeah, World Cup, right? Yeah. Looked over that, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I did a search and we've retweeted this before. Retweeted again. I'm like, this can't be happening. And then more and more people have got on the bandwagon. And what a cracking story.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be absolutely fucking amazing. It'd be after Real Madrid, mate. A couple of seasons.
Aye. As long as they don't trade what for Mike alone, though. But no, I've been looking for a couple, mate. Apparently, there's been bids flying for like Kamara, midfielder, plays in France. Don't know much about him, mind. So if you want expert opinion, go to Sky Sports or fake Sky Sports, wherever you want to go. Rob Holden, we could bring him in on loan. Another deal with Arsenal. What do you reckon of Rob Holden, mate? Because I don't really like him. He's a bit like a Kieran Clark type player, and it's not that he's not good. It's like we've already got similar.
Yeah, that's it. The Kieran Clark sort of comparison is probably a good one. To me, I mean, he had his loan deal and stuff like that, and he's had his opportunities and his chances, and it's just not somebody. I mean, the Joe Willock thing would excite me. I think some of the other lads that we've been linked to as well, the Roma player, the lad from France, I've seen bits of. I've done bits of research. I know a little bit about them from, if there's a spare moment, if nobody's got the TV, I'll stick some football on from somewhere and watch some. And I think I'd be far more excited about maybe one of those signings than a Rob Holden type signing, because certainly from what I've seen from the lad from France, he can go. He's an athletic CDM type player.
There's someone in the field,
even the Roma lad, Spanish, isn't he?
I don't know much about him.
He looks good. I know less about him than I do from the lad from France. But Rob Holden for me, mate, wouldn't be one that I'd look to blow significant funds on, because I just think there's other options. And you've also got to look at the fact, you've got to look at the makeup of this 25 man squad. You can't have all of one position or this, that, and the other. We're playing 3 at the back, but we've only got 5 defenders technically. I personally think Isaac Hayden's going to be retrained as a centre back. As
bringing another midfielder, that would make sense.
Yeah, to put him into that. But you're looking at Rob Holden, and are you looking maybe more on the right hand side? Well, you've got Manquillo there, you've got Kraft there, you've got Jacob Murphy over there. So you're going to have to be looking at moving players out before moving players in. And I just don't think that. I don't think I would be comfortable with spending the amount of money that it would take to sign him, to bring Rob Holden to the club. He generates to me about as much excitement as Jeff Hendrick did when he signed. So
yeah. Even then, we thought Jeff Hendrick was a solid signing for now. So
for now, and boy, have we been wrong.
Massively wrong. We're not an expert.
Hold our hands up to that one.
We're not right about everything. Yeah, hold hands up. Really sorry, but
you're looking forward to the derby, though, aren't you? The Jeff Hendrick derby coming up shortly.
Oh God, we've got beat off them in a friendly, apparently behind closed doors. Take it what you will, but we've been linked with Carter Vickers, who played for Southampton last season. Actually, no, it wasn't Southampton. It was Bournemouth. So he worked under Graham Jones in a little capacity, so maybe he could come in on loan. Interestingly though, Paul, I picked up on this on Twitter before we came on. Ross Barkley's actually hasn't been given a shirt number at Chelsea, and there's someone who I think would be a good signing for Newcastle. I think Barkley will be a stewed fit. I think English lad. Had a lot of potential before he picked up a major injury. But for me, I think Ross Barkley would be a good signing. I don't know about you, but bring him in on loan. I think he'd be a good player to bring in.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult with these big players, when they're coming up with big reputations, mate, and they get the injuries. It always reminds me of Dan Gosling, if you remember him, where he came in, he had an injury, didn't he? But he had a big reputation, and then he wasn't quite the same player after the injury as he was maybe prior to it. But I think certainly Ross Barkley on loan would be a fantastic piece of business. Again, offers something different, and I think that would probably be more evidence of Isaac Hayden perhaps being looked upon more as a central defender in a three at the back, as opposed to like a midfielder and stuff. But I wouldn't be against Ross Barkley coming in on loan, because we still need more work in the middle of the park. We have said match after match has been a massive issue for Newcastle, and our tactic at certain points of last season was, well, let's get the ball to Willock, let's get the ball to ASM. It shouldn't be like that. It should be about a system. And I think what Bruce is maybe trying to get to do is to bring in somebody a little bit more athletic, so he can push that midfield a little bit further up, and we can try and dominate and maybe put our impression onto the opposition a little bit more, rather than riding by the seat of our pants all the fucking time, which was basically the tactic, last season. Carter Vickers, who's been down at Bournemouth, he's worked with Graham Jones a few times, and he's got the left foot, and he'll certainly bring the ball out. So again, I think that's appealing. He's a different type of defender to what we've got.
Yeah.
Again, athletic. Again, can move himself about a little bit. He isn't just a stand there and head, but quite slow, static type defender. You know what I mean? So I think the Carter Vicker ones makes a lot of sense. Obviously, we were linked to one or two other alternatives, but Vickers, it keeps coming back time and time again. And I certainly think that Spurs wouldn't stand in his way at all. I don't see it being. I don't see him fitting in there. But he did a good job at Bournemouth. But it's making the step up. But I would trust what Graham Jones saw 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I would trust Graham Jones' opinion as well. But yeah, I don't know who else we'll bring in. I think we'll bring in 2 more loan players, but I don't think anyone else will come in permanently. I think Joe Willock's that's it. The thing is, so is that enough? I don't. It depends what positions they decide to fill. If they bring in a centre forward, if they bring in another midfielder, and maybe plug in a few gaps at centre back and right back and stuff like that. If they brought in 5 players, I think I'd be very happy with that. But if they can bring in 3, and they're solid players. Even if they're loan deals, I can take something from it to where we've got a strong enough squad to more than comfortably stay up. So
you've got to hope, mate. You've got to hope that this season is the last fucking season with Mike Ashley. You've got to hope. You've got to hope for that. I can't keep up myself through this absolute fucking pain of the Bruce Charnley Ashley situation. I will say that Mike Ashley is stepping back, and he always said that it was his wish to step back a little bit from his business empire and maybe move to Miami and enjoy the rest of his life. So I'm hoping with the announcements that's happened at Fraser's, Sports Direct, whatever shit they want to call it this week, I'm hoping that is the beginning of it. In the accounts, it talked about the fact that they're kind of being kicked to July next year with regards to the debt that we owe Mike Ashley and stuff. Yeah. So I am hoping and praying that somewhere, whether we get this takeover with the Saudis and PIF or whether it's somebody else, we cannot keep having an owner who has put the keys through the letterbox and has no interest about putting a 1 penny of his own money in. He's just interested in his own greedy corporate desires, whether that's selling off land at Strawberry Place, whether that's taking a few million out like he does all of the fucking time, whether that's free advertising, etc., etc., etc. But it's got to end, mate. It's got to end at some point.
You're right. It has. Fingers crossed. It's the last season, but yeah, we're entering like the final bit. I mean, we've still got probably 15-20 minutes left, Paul. But like in terms of going into the season, like obviously we've signed Joe Willock. A few have went out. A
few more need to.
The players that have went out, obviously, like Mutu, Lejeune, Kel Watts, which was a strange one given how many minutes he got. That's one thing I do want to touch on, actually. Steve Bruce in December/January, early February, every single press conference, we're short of a centre-half, we need a centre-half, we need a flipping centre-half, we need a centre-half, whilst we loaned out Lejeune to Alaves. And he sold Lejeune to Alaves. And we had Kel Watts there. He was getting games in pre-season and stuff, and it was like, if we're not bringing in a centre-back, Kel Watts will be depth. And he's loaned him out to Wigan. So I'm completely lost.
After they played the Macrams. After they played the fucking Macrams.
Yeah.
You might have been able to help them.
And it's like, it's really frustrating to me because, like, we're kind of got a manager who doesn't learn from his mistakes. It's like, you moan all of last season, we need a centre-back, we need a centre-back, centre-back. And you leave with shorter at centre-back than we were last season. A couple of injuries and whatnot, mate. That's across the board. And that's something I'll probably mention a couple of times. I
don't know what you expect, mate. I don't know what you expect. Look, he's come out today and said we won't improve overnight. The lads only had 758 days to sort this problem out. What do you expect? We will not improve overnight. What do you expect? Goodness sake. Honestly, mate, every time that lad opens his mouth, Steve Bruce.
Shit follows.
Yeah, it's just a clusterfuck. It really, really is. He doesn't help himself. He comes out with statements like you said, I'm short of centre-backs. And then he lets Lejeune leave for literally peanuts. And then he lets Kel Watts go to Wigan. Now, look, if we had another up-and-coming young defender, you'd think, that's okay. We've got that void of the next big thing coming up. But we don't. Now, I get Kel Watts will benefit from first-team football. Totally and utterly get that. But like you said, when it's mid-December and we've got an absolute hellacious run and we need other players, we haven't got them there. And people are saying to me when I said about, well, we could do with another centre-back. Why do we need centre-back when we've got 5? Well, if you're playing 3 at the back, 3 can get injured very, very quickly, and then you are literally riding by the seat of your pants. That is why I think that he will sign a central defensive midfielder, probably more likely on loan, maybe with an option. Yeah. But then he'll have Hayden and Emil Kraft as fillers. And I am worried about this weekend that Emil Kraft is going to get the start because he has played a lot of football.
Did all right against Norwich.
For Newcastle. He has done all right, and he's probably the pacier of quite a slow Newcastle backline. We're not blessed with pace, are we? We really are not. And that's why I think Vickers will come in. I do think Vickers will come in, I must admit.
I'd hate to see a 100-metre sprint between my back line, mate. It'd take about flipping 20 years. Get the end of the season.
Oh, aye. And I tell you something as well, when Kraft goes back to Norwich, I bet he'll be getting fucking nightmares. that was probably the scene of his worst ever performance. And that's saying something for Emil Kraft.
It is saying something as well, mind. But I mean, what like going into the season, what's your overall feeling? Because like mine's like we said at the top of the podcast, like mine was a bit dread, but I'm running through the motions a little bit of looking forward to getting back into the ground, looking forward to seeing you. It's more looking forward to everything else
social side
around the game, more the social side and everything like that. But what's a genuine feeling going into the season? You got confidence in the squad, Graham Jones, like. Where does this confidence stem from? Is it just habit?
It is, and the thing is, it's a habit since about 1994. I've had a pound on Newcastle to win the Premier League every season since 1994. Now that's money I could have put to much better use. I know. I'm a glutton for punishment, mate. I've seen some shit. I really, really have, and every season I come back and like, please, sir, can I have some more shit? You know, but mate, at the same time, I've seen some fantastic things when I least expected it, and I've seen Newcastle get to the later stages of European competition. I've been there when we've got to the final for 2 years in a row. I've seen the Pardew season when we were fighting up towards the top when we had no right to be fighting up to towards the top of the league.
Yeah.
I've got fantastic memories and it is those moments that you go and you live and die for. It's the moment like you're 2-0 down against Everton into stoppage time and it's a 2-2 draw. I don't now go expecting. A young guy used to say that I think we're going to win a cup. We're going to win the FA Cup. I don't. I see the wealth funds who are fighting it out at the top of the league, and you just sort of think it would be fantastic, and it would be one of the best moments ever for me to see that. But I go now for the moments where there's going to be a moment of magic, a great goal, a fantastic chant. The West Brom game.
I remember it.
Atmospheres, mate. I go for that. I mean, I talked about the Doncaster one. It was fucking bouncing, mate, in the away end. I personally think this season, I think we will battle relegation bravely once more to put in a football manager sort of way. But by the end of it, we've got an awfully difficult run in, so we need to be well clear before the end of it, to be honest. But I think realistically, I think the top that we could ever possibly expect and hope for is maybe 10th at a real push with everybody saying fit, with Callum Wilson saying fit and so on and so forth. Realistically, I think we will finish somewhere 12, 13, 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, I believe that as well.
Without Willock, mate, I'd have said in the relegation zones because everybody else who is around us is strengthening. But I will say, and I'll put that with a caveat, at this moment as we record this, like Brighton, they've lost one of their better players. Southampton, they've lost, Danny Ings and stuff as well. He's gone. So some of the teams down the bottom have been weakened a little bit, but they have got cash. It's how they use that cash and who they bring into the football club that will be interesting. But I certainly think we should be comfortable in the league. And I've got to hope and pray somewhere along the line in my lifetime, I want to see Newcastle win a cup. So I go into every single season, I put my pound bet on Newcastle to win the Premier League, a pound on the FA Cup, and a pound on the League Cup at ridiculous odds every single season. And I have done since I've been able to. But again, like you, looking forward to the social side of it, meeting up, having a crack round about the match, going up to the ground, the noise as it generally builds up, the atmosphere, and as you walk up to the steps and the noise hits you in the face, seeing St James's Park, the lovely green carpet, the sights, the sounds, and everything else like that, taking our seats and hopefully being entertained. Hopefully the players put a good performance out. They're not bruised too much. And also interested to see what Graham Jones brings to the party, mate. His first full season at the club. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got to offer. But my expectations are realistic, given the fact we've got Mike Ashley as an owner, Lee Charnley as the MD, and Steve Bruce as the manager. So it is doused in realism. And you know what, mate? When I was a kid growing up, I had the Kevin Keegan, etc., days, and it was always, we're going to qualify for Europe, we're going to qualify for the Champions League, this, that, and the other. There's none of that fairy dust. There's none of that magic dust about the place anymore. The cathedral on the hill. There's none of that, mate. But you just don't know. We've got some good players, I will say that. We've got some cracking players. We've got some shite. We've still got some shite. We've cleared a lot of dead wood off. We have cleared a lot of dead wood off. But we've got some good players. I'm looking forward to seeing. You know how much I like Miggy. ASM, Callum Wilson. I'm looking forward to seeing. Willock, definitely. Willock. I'm looking forward to seeing Jacob Murphy as well. The goalkeeper situation, I'm looking forward to seeing how that develops. I'm hoping Jamal Lascelles gets back to the player that we know he can be and was. I don't think he had the best season last season. Matt Ritchie, I love Matt Ritchie. I love his attitude, his application, his work rate, kicking the corner flags and all that sort of thing. I love all of that. So there is things there that I'm looking forward to, but I'm a realist. I am a realist, and I know this is going to be another season where we are having to punch against the big clubs, as Steve Bruce will call it. But hey, just got to keep everything crossed for the takeover as well at the same time, mate. There's that the shenanigans in the background. But I'm switched off to it, and I'm a little bit numb to it, and I'll wait for something a little bit more credible to be coming along the line. I certainly not getting excited about these in the know accounts who are talking about deals being done to get around certain clauses and issues and problems. I think the Premier League's corrupt. I think Richard Masters is looking after the top six elitist, corrupt six, and that won't change anytime shortly. So there's going to be a hellacious, bloody fight in court at some point along the line. But I just pray it's soon enough to be able to keep Staveley's consortium interested, mate. But yeah, it's very much that's noise. In the distance, streets away. But I'm looking forward to getting back to St James's Park, because even against Sheffield United, mate, with 10,000 in, it was nice to feel that. Yeah, Newcastle energy.
I am looking forward to that aspect of stuff, mate. But for me, going into the season, at the start of the week, I didn't feel much at all. I was like, kind of, but I'm being on a couple of podcasts, talking to you, seeing Willock saying, and I'm getting myself going for the season. I'm looking forward to it and stuff. But for me, in terms of the football, it's whether Graham Jones can outsmart the stupidity that is Steve Bruce. Because when Graham Jones came through the door, he's
such a nice man.
Apparently so, but when he came into the door, we were a mess. We hadn't won in a long time. We're currently going through many amount of games without a golden open play. We looked messy. We looked flipping shit. And Bruce was very much on the way out, and he'd lost the dressing room. So it's a case of can Graham Jones control the stupid Bruce in the cage kind of thing? It's kind of can he do it? Because I know a lot of people will be like, you kind of hammer Bruce, but you can only go off the last 20 games with him in charge before Jones came in, and then the 20 after. That's what I compare it to, and I think we're a lot better since Jones came in, and you can tell we got a lot better and got more hands on. Because do you think if Graham Jones hadn't came in, we would have done what we did at Leicester against Man City?
We would have gone down, mate. He's already said that he doesn't do tactics and stuff, Graham Jones does tactics, and he does lots of tactics, and that's all he's about. He's about man management, and he's about tactics. And there was some statistics it was a chart that I put up on our Twitter account, which if you don't follow us on Twitter, and on that it showed you the form pre Graham Jones coming in, then afterwards.
Yeah,
and afterwards, it was equivalent to European qualification. If you take the Graham Jones period and you multiply that over a season, that was potentially European football, that level of form. And if you look at the uplift between the pre and the afterwards, I think it was a masterstroke by. I mean, Steve Bruce says it was him who decided to bring him in. I don't know whether I believe that or not.
Yes,
I think it was a safety net. It's a safety net by the club.
Yeah.
But whoever's decision it was to bring Graham Jones in, it was an absolute, masterstroke. It really, really was. And look, we just all of a sudden look at that Everton game. It's a perfect example. We were going into it pissing against the wind, but we came out of that, and there was a plan, and there was a purpose, and there was a tactic designed for Newcastle to get points out of that game, and that we did. Shifting Callum Wilson over to the right-hand side, playing Miggy through the middle, confused the Everton players, and it was so effective. And we got the goals, and we got the win, and that was a crucial point. And there's umpteen little situations like that through the season that Newcastle have benefited from. But Steve Bruce himself coming out saying, I don't do tactics. His coaches aren't very tactically aware. I don't think that he's the best coaches the rest of the Steve coaches that he's brought in with him. But yes, with Steve Castle and stuff like that. But Graham Jones, and again, it showed. I think was it Palace when he banished him to the stand, and then we get our asses handed to us. You know what I mean? So I think Steve Bruce. Look at some of the way he was talking about Graham Jones. It was just such a look of disdain at times last season. He's really got to utilise him. Gareth Southgate, look at the effect that he had on the England squad and how heavily balls deep mate he was in the England success. We've got to be able to extract a little bit of that out. He's Newcastle United through and through. And again, we've got to exploit this sort of thing. We've got the Gateshead Guardiola. We've got some good players. That should give us some hope. We've got to keep hold of Graham Jones, and we've got to keep hold of our better players and continue with the process of weeding out the shit. Because obviously 758 days is not enough for Steve Bruce.
Well, no, I agree, mate. That's the thing with Steve Bruce. I kind of warmed to him. I've seen a couple of posts on Twitter and that saying, you need to give him a fresh start. I can't. He's just said too much about the fan base. He's very against what the fan base is.
The thing is, mate, right? Imagine if you were a judge and you were trying a murderer or somebody from the police, and somebody killed 10 people last year. Would in a new year you'd be saying, well, let's give him a fresh? No, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't give him a fresh chance. You've got to remember what he's done previously. Look, it's up to Steve Bruce now in a difficult situation. I do credit that. To be able to try and win the fans round. But what I would say is last season, he had opportunities to do so. And what he did is he chose to attack the fans rather than back the fans. Listen to what Sir Bobby Robson used to say about the fans after a bad result. Then listen to Steve Bruce. And the contrast is absolutely and utterly alarming. It is up to Steve Bruce. He may be a nice man, I've no doubt about it. Again, Mick Lowe says a lot of nice things about Steve Bruce. He's a proper football man and this, that and the other. And Steve Bruce blames a lot of issues on his poor choice of words and stuff like that. He does need to start thinking when you come out and staying after you've been here 2 years, things won't improve overnight. You're just making a rod for your own back.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So he's really got to think about what he's doing because he is digging his own grave. You know, he's digging his own grave.
Yeah.
And I just hope this season he gets to know that he probably is going to get a little bit of stick. And if things go badly to start off with, he's going to get a lot of stick. But he's got to really, really trust those players, like Graham Jones. He's got to trust them to be able to get the performances. And he's just got to sort of oversee it and everything. And we know that Mike Ashley isn't going to get rid of Steve Bruce because he's doing, in his eyes, a fantastic job. But when I go there, and I will be at St James's Park, as you will, I'll be going to support the lads. You know, I'm going to support the players. I'm going to support the team. I'm going to support the club. I'm going for that. I'm not going there for, Steve Bruce or anything else like that. He was never my choice, but he was the choice. So I'm going to more focus my energies on supporting the lads. And cheering about what hopefully will be a good performance and a good win for Newcastle at the weekend. But by no means does this make me a Steve Bruce, Mark, because I think what you said about the fan base repeatedly throwing us under the bus isn't fantastic, and that is in the back of my mind. I can't forget what he said about the fan base, and I can't forget about how he slagged the fan base off. But at the same time, I want our club to be successful, mate, and I want us to have a good season. So I will be supporting the lads and joining in all the songs and stuff like that, singing Callum Wilson, Alan St. Maximin, Miggy, Joe Willock, etc. Martin Dubravka's song, all that sort of good stuff. Yeah, of course I will. I think that's the right way to approach things at the moment. And I'm just hoping that distant noise in the background of that takeover rumbling on eventually sorts out the rest of the mess at the football club, mate.
Yeah, the thing is, mate, that's where the realist in me kicks on as well, because I've spoke about off camera and stuff with my dad and stuff, and it's for me, you can only look at the facts, and it's not attacking Steve Bruce or anything like that, but the facts are he gets it, the fan base, on a weekly basis. He feeds in to the TalkSport agenda that is against Newcastle and its fan base, clearly, that we expect too much and we expect Champions League every season, yet we've had no investment from an owner in 10 years. We've had two top 10 finishes in the last 15 years under Mike Ashley. We are a dying football club, and we're told every week by these so-called pundits that we're meant to be. We expect too much, and we think we're a Champions League level club. We're not. We're not. We just have a bit of hope. Yet you see the facts, and they clearly decide to disagree. And where Steve Bruce comes into this is the facts speak for themselves, Paul. Any club he's been to, as he took them forward. He's took no club forward. Steve Bruce either keeps a club in the same place it was, or he takes a club backwards. With Newcastle, he's kept in the same place, but he's had £200 million, and we haven't went forward. He's been backed more than any Newcastle United manager.
He has been backed.
Still, you compare Rafa's teams, and I'm not going to mention Rafa too much because he's Everton manager now. It's done, but Rafa had Joselu, we had Atsu, we had all these players that weren't good enough for the Premier League. And yet we're matching you've got Steve Bruce, who's got Maximin, he's got Wilson, he's got all these players, all this investment, and he can only match. He can only stay at the same level. I'm not quite sure how we finished 12th last season, but we did by some miraculous way. But for me, Steve Bruce, his version of success is standing still, staying in the same place, merely existing. That's what Steve Bruce does. He keeps feeding into this. He said a couple of times last season he's a bang average manager. His success or his enjoyment in football is just merely existing in the Premier League. That's why he's done nothing. It's why he's won nothing. It's why he'll never win anything, because he's happy to exist. He's just happy.
He's happy for the job, mate. He's happy for the opportunity.
Which is perfect for Newcastle. It fits into Mike Ashley and Lee Charney's Newcastle United when they say we're just happy to stay in the Premier League. And Bruce is a manager that's happy to exist. So he'll take the bare minimum, he'll take whatever, because his success is keeping a team the same place. He'll never kick a team on. He'll never get a team to where it should be. He'll always keep a team either there, or you'll drop them down like a brick in water. Do you know what I mean? That's Steve Bruce. And it's how long can he keep us there before Steve Bruce comes in? If it weren't for Graham Jones, he would have got relegated last season.
Mate, during that run where we couldn't hit the side of a fucking barn door, at 99.9% of any other clubs, he would have been relieved of his duties. Yeah, you think at Chelsea or anywhere else like that, he'd have been going after 2 or 3 defeats. But at Newcastle, It's just keep the status quo. Don't try and rock the boat. Minimal investment, etc., etc., etc. You've got. He talks about knocking doors down and stuff. You've got Rafa Benitez, who was hurried out of the door, who was pushed away, who was given minimal investment because he did knock some doors down and he did want better for Newcastle. And you've got Steve Bruce, who they are very happy with. Why are they very happy? Because he doesn't ask for a lot. He doesn't walk the board. He is happy with the. You're totally right. And football, mate, it shouldn't be about that. Going back to what I was saying when younger years, when I was back at school and stuff, and all that. Well, I wonder if we can do well in the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can do well and get in the UEFA. Go, do you think there's a chance for Champions League? Do you know what I mean? And they'll be like, can we push on? Can we do one better? Can we win? Can we win the league? Can we beat Manchester United? All of these things. It was a case of reaching for the stars, and now this is like the reality years where you're just realizing that we're fighting. Realistically, mate, this season we are fighting against the likes of Burnley, Brighton, Southampton, Brentford, Watford, etc., etc. We're fighting those sorts of clubs.
Yeah.
And it's when you start saying stuff like that, it does deflate you a little bit because those aren't anywhere near heavyweights. They're not even like they're not even the next echelons up. And you look at clubs, and we can look at clubs like Aston Villa, who just recently stayed up, and look at them now. They're really pushing on. They're in an exciting adventure, mate. They're head of operations, their person in charge of the football club, comes out and talks to the fans about decisions. Why did we decide to sell Jack Grealish? Why did we do that? Mate, we don't even get Lee Charney out to discuss fan forums and stuff like that, which he's supposed to be able to do and everything. I'm not even sure, like I say, whether Mrs. Charney has a conversation with Lee Charney. You know what I mean? So the club is in a mess, and we are still at a low point. But it's made us grateful for every small thing. So like a day like today, when we've signed Joe Willock, we're absolutely buzzing. We're over the moon, and you're getting gooners who are looking at you thinking, "You've just signed Joe Willock. Why are you so excited? Why?"
They'll be down at the bottom with soon if they're not careful, getting beat off flipping Brentford. Christ.
Exactly. Is it still 2-0?
No, it finished 2-0, mate.
He's 2-0.
It turns on EFTV.
Well, he's gone. Arsenal, he's gone. He's our player. You can't have him back. They've got major problems. Brentford, that's a fantastic because that would be one that they weren't targeting points from, I don't believe. So again, Brentford are one of our competitors this season, whether people like it or not. They are a competitor. They've got off to a fantastic start against one of the so-called big six that the Premier League likes to protect. So they won't like today's result, but obviously we all know them as the greedy six. Yeah. So tonight, Arsenal bottom of the Premier League, and Brentford top of the Premier League. Crazy days.
And the league now got one of the big six relegated. Be flipping hilarious. But one thing I will say, mate, just to wrap things up in terms of a summary, is that Steve Bruce kind of get away if Steve Bruce kind of do what he did last season again, because the fans are there now. He kind of go on a run of 2 wins in 23. He kind of say wrong things every week and goad the fans in press conferences, because the pressure will be amped up to 750 million times more to what he was used to last season.
Be careful.
So he's got.
You'll be getting John Barnes on here next. John Barnes will be kicking off at you. You want to be careful because John Barnes already knows it. It's all our fault. It's all the Newcastle fans' fault. That's why we're doing shit. That's why we're making stupid decisions left, right, and centre. That's why we've messed up with this whole takeover thing. That's why Steve Bruce keeps opening his gob and out spews random bits of shit. It's all the fans' fault. It's nobody else's fault. Thank you, John Barnes. Thank you, John Barnes, for
no. Speaking of that, if John Barnes wants to talk about decisions, he's known most for a flipping shitty rap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, let's go raps when he came to Newcastle. I think they were done it. He was fucking shite. He was shite for Newcastle. He really was.
But to wrap, I mean, yeah, Bruce kind of do what he did again, basically, because I think fan unrest would be toxic, and I don't want that. I don't want, because it's already toxic on social media at times, and it's like if we lose a couple of games and we go on a bad run, and Steve Bruce says the wrong things, and then TalkSport starts saying things that'll like turn the crowd, it'll be really toxic next season. So I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come to that. But Steve Bruce will not get away with it next season. The fans will not let that happen. But to wrap the podcast, mate, I think you had a prediction of between 11th and 14th this season, didn't you? The thing is, I'm going to be vanilla and say the same, but I'm going to say Bruce is finally going to do it. He's finally going to match Rafa officially, and we're going to have 46 points at the end of the season. And I think that'll take us between 11th and 14th, like you say. But if we can have a good cup run, see a little bit of progression on the field where we're playing a bit more attractive football and we're trying to make something happen in big games, then okay. But I can't take having another depressing season, 2 wins in 23 with a shit manager in charge. It'll be a hard season at times. I expect a couple of negative podcasts, but the optimist in it,
not the next one.
The optimist in us would like to see Newcastle smash 50 to 55 points this season, aim for the top 10. But that's the best that we could hope for if everyone stays fit, which with the way Bruce operates will not happen. But unless there's anything else you want to mention, Paul, I think that's it for pre-season for the season preview. Like,
yeah, no, I think that's everything. Just if you haven't listened to this point, thank you very, very much. We do all put a lot of work into Magpie 24/7. So if you could like all of our accounts, that is appreciated. We don't bombard you with adverts or this, that, and the other. But if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, yeah, and everything else, Spotify, all the good stuff. That does mean a lot, because obviously myself and yourself put a lot of work into Magpie 24/7.
Yeah, we do.
So, and there is there's thousands of people now following, like across the board. 6,000-7,000 on Facebook, over 5,500 on Twitter. We've just started the YouTube, but we need to get that up. But Instagram goes up daily, touching 3,000. So yeah, it's not about the numbers and stuff for us, but it is nice and a nice reward, and it does get the word out there a little bit more, and more people get to listen to everything and share and join in the debate in the comment section, talking, socializing. So yeah, please do, if you haven't already, please do check them all out, give us a like, and looking forward to hopefully a better season and making some good memories back at St James's Park and back on the road. Coronavirus do one. Yeah,
hopefully. But in terms of like the schedule for most weekends, it'll be a case of me and Paul do a video after the game, and then we'll do the podcast the next day. I think I don't want several videos where we'll talk about the same thing. It's just a case we'll have one for the YouTube, and then the main podcast follows it. So you get your two videos, one being a podcast throughout the season and stuff, and then we'll have a preview as well. That'll probably go out on Saturday. So yeah, I think that's everything covered. I'm looking forward to the season, Paul. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, and hopefully by the time we record this on Monday night, we're celebrating 3 points and being
3, 4, 5 goals for Newcastle, of course. Easy
3 points, no problem. But
bring on Moisey.
Just for listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, everyone. We'll love yous and leave yous, and see yous on the next one, on the next Magpie 24/7 podcast, and catch you in a bit. See yous later.